I threw my dad a retirement party expecting to inherit our family restaurant, but he shocked everyone by giving it to my irresponsible younger brother instead. So, a little over a month ago, I, 28, female, threw my dad a retirement party. He was retiring from the position of manager of our family restaurant after running it for almost his entire life. But now he's almost, and he told us that he was too tired to carry on and wanted the business to go to the new generation. I very foolishly had assumed that he meant me, since I had given the past years of my life to this restaurant. My family owns an Italian restaurant chain, and we also operate in 2 other locations across the city. One is run by my uncle, and the other is managed by my uncle's daughter. However, the branch that we run is the most popular one, and my father is the rightful owner. My uncle is not actually my dad's biological brother. For context, this all started when my grandfather started his first restaurant, and that's where the business originated. Our location is actually the original location of the restaurant that my grandfather opened with my grandmother and ran for several years until my father took over from them. He then expanded the business and opened up 2 new restaurants in different locations. That's where my uncle came in. He quit his job and started the other restaurant when we opened up. His daughter started managing that, so the business has always stayed within the family. When my dad announced his retirement a couple of weeks before I threw the party, I obviously expected him to hand it over to me. My uncle was not a contender to inherit the business because he was also around the same age as my father, maybe a couple of years younger, and was planning to retire in a couple of years anyway. His daughter had been running the new location for years when we started it, which is a lot less experience than I have, since I have been committed to this restaurant for the past years. Ever since I was 23, I quit my corporate job to work with my father because one day I hoped to inherit the family business and take it to new heights of success. I just assumed that it would be me since I was the strongest contender to inherit the business. My uncle was retiring around the same time as my father, and my cousin was too young and inexperienced to handle everything on her own, so I just knew that it would be me. My father never said it to me outright, and it was pretty stupid of me not to demand it in writing or something, but I guess it was just known that I was going to inherit it. However, my father threw me a curveball at the very last moment, on the day of his retirement party, by announcing that it would be my bratty brother who would be inheriting the business. I have 2 siblings, an older brother and a younger one. My older brother Charles, 34, male, has no interest in the restaurant business and chose the medical path. He's a surgeon. My younger brother, Derek, 26, male, has no interest in anything at all and does nothing all day. He is a good-for-nothing brat, and nobody in the family likes him. I don't have a problem with the fact that he does nothing all day and has no talents, but I definitely have a problem with his attitude. He has achieved nothing in his life, yet he acts like he's the best and deserves every good thing that happens to him. It's mostly my parents encouraging this behavior, and anytime Charles and I try to say something about it, they shut us down by telling us that he needs this sort of positive encouragement so that he actually decides to explore his career options and ends up as something, not just a freeloader who relies on his parents for the rest of his life. He graduated from community college a couple of years ago, and since then, he has been fired from at least 5 jobs. He can just never make it stick because he has a massive attitude problem. I don't know what it is or why he thinks that way, but he thinks that he is on the same level as God himself, and nobody can question him. We have to put up with it because we are his family. But in the real world, nobody would put up with this kind of behavior, least of all his employers. So it's no surprise that he has been fired from every job he's had within a couple of months. He's not very skilled at anything, and even the jobs he did have. It was my father who got him those positions through his connections, so he really can't do anything for himself. He's just a massive screw-up, and he doesn't even know what he wants to do with his life. For the past couple of years, after he got fired from his last job 2 years ago, he has just been sitting at home and leeching off our parents. The worst part is that he doesn't even seem to feel bad or ashamed of it, and it's just super frustrating because our parents don't say anything to him either. They are just letting him live like this, instead of doing something about it. It's unfair as well, because when it came to us, they were constantly pushing us to do better. Not to sound ungrateful about it, since Charles and I are doing pretty well in our lives, but it just sucks to see them be so different with Derek. So anyway, he's a really spoiled brat, and I don't like him at all. We were all great friends when we were kids, but since high school things have been really different, and I don't get along with Derek in the slightest. He also has no experience in the business, or how things even operate here. So it came as a huge shock to everybody when my dad announced that he was going to inherit the business. My father had announced that he was going to retire a couple of months before I threw the party. Everybody knew about it, all the employees and everyone in the family as well. And I, as someone who had been working in the restaurant as my father's right-hand man or woman in my case, obviously expected I would be. taking over after he retired. We never had a proper conversation about it, which is something that I really regret. I had just taken it for granted, and maybe that's what led to my undoing. Although on a couple of occasions he had mentioned certain things about how, when he retired, he wanted me to do certain things. So I just took it as a sign that since he was telling me what he wanted me to do after he retired, he would obviously leave me in charge. It just never would have occurred to me that maybe he would not leave the business to me, because I trusted my father. He had never given me any reason not to. Maybe he did treat Derek differently, but that did not mean that he treated me badly. He was always very loving and respectful towards me, both as a daughter and as an employee. Anyway, when he announced it, I decided that I was going to throw him a party. And it didn't even occur to me that he had not announced who his successor would be, since I knew that it would be me. So on the day of the party, when he decided to announce that he would be allowing Derek to take over, I was in shock. Not just me, everyone was. All the employees and my mother herself, everyone was in shock. Everyone had believed that I would inherit. Since for 5 years I had been slogging at the restaurant and trying to make sure that everything was perfect. And after 5 years, it was Derek who was going to take over the business. None of it made sense to me, and it was not until my father pulled Derek to his side and Derek very smugly announced that he accepted his new position, that it finally sunk in. I literally stormed out of the restaurant. I was in tears, and I was obviously very devastated. A couple of minutes later, my father followed me out, and he tried to explain to me that he had his reasons for making this very difficult decision. I was very upset, but I still decided to hear him out, and his reasons were just as stupid and unreasonable as his decision. He told me that his decision had been influenced by the fact that Derek was actually good for nothing, and he knew it. In the past 2 years, while Derek had been sitting at home, he had tried really hard to get him to go out, look for a job, and do something with his life, but he just took everything really casually. So now he thought that maybe putting him in a spot where he absolutely had to be responsible, like managing the restaurant, would force him to step up and become a better worker, since now he would be working to sustain his own life and the family business. At his previous jobs, he was working for somebody else, and he didn't really have a stake in it, so maybe that's why his heart was not in it. But now, since this would be his own business, he would have more of a stake in it, and maybe that would motivate him to be a better worker. And if not, it would at least just get him out of the house. My father told me that he still wanted me to be at the restaurant and do for Derek exactly what I used to do for him, be there for him at all times. He told me that I would be the real boss, he was just going to be the nominal head, and maybe that would encourage him to do better. That was incredibly insulting to me because he expected me to act like Derek's assistant and shadow him all the time, knowing that I was fully capable of doing a much better job than him. I am not my brother's babysitter, I am my own person, and I think I had worked hard enough by then to earn the position that he had just given away to Derek. I was still very upset, and even after the explanation, I was not swayed. I told my dad that he could either take his words back and give me the job that he had just given away to Derek, or he would lose me forever. I was serious about it. I gave him an ultimatum, and unfortunately, we got into a really bad fight. He told me that I was being unreasonable and selfish, not thinking about my brother's future. I told him that he was being the same way, not even thinking about my future. So, that's how we ended up fighting, and I cut him off after that because I had nothing left to say to him. He had refused to take the job away from Derek and give it to the person who rightfully deserved that position, me. I was really insulted, so I made up my mind that I was not going to go back there again. The day after the retirement party was pretty much the last day that I spent at the restaurant. Since then, it's been 1 month, and I still haven't returned because it still hurts. I have kept in touch with my mother and Charles, though I don't ask about the restaurant, and they don't tell me about it. Even though I know they know how it has been doing, they are aware that it's a sore point for me right now, and I don't want to discuss it. So, up until a couple of days ago, I had no idea how everything was going at the restaurant. I had stopped speaking to my father after that fight, and I don't talk to Derek anyway, so that was not something that had changed. I also started applying to other jobs after I quit working at the restaurant. I did get paid for working there, just like any other employee, and I had some savings to fall back on for the time being. I had figured that until I could find something that I wanted to do, I would just live off my savings. I had planned to go on a trip next week, but I don't know about that anymore because I might have to go back to the restaurant. And that's because my brother messed up in a colossal way, just like I had known he would. The guy knew nothing about how to run a restaurant, and I don't know why. But my dad had thought it would be a good idea to let him do whatever he wanted without supervision, just to show him how much he trusted him and instill a sense of faith and belief in him, so he does not feel underconfident. Because obviously my brother's feelings are more important than the family business and other practical matters. Not only had Derek taken a bunch of irresponsible and stupid financial decisions since he started, but he had also started skimping out on certain ingredients. Now they were in a lot of trouble because he had screwed up and had been caught. We also cater to vegans and have a separate vegan menu. We make sure not to handle that kind of food with non-vegan products in the kitchen due to ethical reasons and have a separate area for vegan food. Not only did Derek shut that area down altogether to save space in the kitchen, but he also started adulterating vegan products to cut costs. It was only a matter of time before he got caught, and a couple of days ago that finally happened. He had instructed the old employees to use regular dairy milk as far as they could to avoid using the higher-priced soy milk, which is so incredibly dangerous. That idiot had forgotten that some people are not just vegan for the sake of it. Some people are actually allergic to dairy. You guys must have guessed what happened by now. Unfortunately, someone ordered a milk-based dessert but specifically asked for soy milk or another milk alternative to be used instead of regular dairy. Had it been one of our usual employees who made the dessert, they would have ignored what Derek had told them to do and used what the customer had asked for. But unfortunately, Derek had hired a new and inexperienced guy and had given him strict and specific instructions to report anyone in the kitchen who was not adhering to his instructions. He's probably not as stupid as he looks because he figured out that the employees had been ignoring his instructions due to how quickly they were running out of alternative ingredients. He wanted someone to spy for him, which is why he hired the new guy. This guy decided to ignore what the customer had asked for and used regular dairy milk for the dessert and did a pretty bad job of it as well. Things went south pretty quickly, and the customer had a really bad allergic reaction and is now threatening to sue the restaurant. I know all of this because a couple of days ago, on the day of the incident, my dad called me up in the evening and told me all about it. I could tell that he was panicked, and he told me that he had fired Derek immediately since he had no idea what he had been up to behind his back. Now he wanted me to come back and rejoin him, offering me the position that I had wanted. It was just bizarre that now he wanted me to come back since my brother had screwed up, and what I had predicted would happen had finally happened. I was still pretty sore and upset from the events of 1 month ago, so on the phone, I decided to have a great laugh at their situation and told him that I was not coming back under any circumstances. I said that if he actually and really wanted me to come back, I wanted a public apology in front of all the restaurant employees and the family, just like he had insulted me on the day of the retirement party. I wanted him to announce that he had fired Derek, acknowledge his mistakes, and then give me the position. I don't think I'm asking for too much because what happened that day at the party simply was not acceptable to me. I was very hurt by his actions, and I'm just asking him to fix the situation since now it is he who needs me. But my mom thinks that it's a little much, and even my father told me on the phone that he was not doing any of that. He told me that this business is just as much mine as it was his, and he might have made a mistake, but what I was asking of him was insane and humiliating. Am I the a-hole for demanding a public apology from my father if he wants me to rejoin the family business after he picked my brother to inherit the business over me? Update 1. Hey, I would like to start off by thanking everybody who has taken the time to comment on my original post and leave me words of advice and support. It really means a lot to me that you guys care about this situation, so thank you so much for that. Now, coming to what I have decided I'm going to do. I took a few days off to think about what I want to do, and I have decided I'm going to go back to the business. It was not an easy decision to make because I would have to put my pride aside, but at the end of the day, I have given 5 years of my life to that place. No matter what happens, I cannot change the fact that I really want to be the one who takes this business forward, and I would really want someone to carry the business on instead of just shutting it down. Since I know that my dad will not be around forever. Charles has no interest in it, like I had already mentioned earlier, and Derek is obviously not capable or competent enough to handle anything, let alone a business like that. So it has to be me, it just does. I have also spoken to my uncle and my cousin from the other 2 branches, and they also believe that I should come back because this is what is rightfully mine. If my father is asking me to come back, I need to just forget about all the problems that I have had with him in the past and return because this restaurant is my passion, and I don't want to watch it fail. It's as simple as that. Honestly, I would have liked it if my father had apologized to me publicly, but I don't want to create a whole song and dance and gloat about my success and how right I was about Derek, because it's not going to bring me any joy compared to the joy that the success of our restaurant will bring me. I have to pick my battles, and I have decided that this time I'm going to let things go, it's for my own good. So I spoke to my dad this morning, and it was a very formal and civil conversation. We have decided that we are going to put our differences from the past aside. We are going to discuss all of that later, but right now, our top priority is to handle the crisis at hand. We have arranged for a meeting with our lawyers and the displeased customer from the incident so we can negotiate and come to a settlement out of court. She has been posting about us on social media relentlessly. So far, we have been lucky because she has not managed to gain a lot of traction, but that won't be the case for long, and we have to squash this before it gets too big. Update 2. So, I met my father in person after a really long time yesterday. We were meeting before our meeting with the customer, and we're discussing everything with our lawyer one final time before the meeting. It was weird to see him in person after so long because, before this, I had seen him almost every single day for 5 years. I didn't realize how much I missed him until I finally saw him in person. We did not speak much to each other because most of the talking was being done by our lawyer, and we had to pay attention to that since this was important. But I could tell that there were a lot of things that we had to discuss, and right now was not the right time. But we had to talk about things eventually. He hasn't really apologized to me properly yet, and neither has he brought up anything about the incident from 1 month ago. But things were really cordial and civil between us, and this is our first in-person interaction after our big fight 1 month ago, so I'm expecting things to be a little weird. They were not, though, and I'm thankful for that. After our meeting was over, he asked me to come home so I could see my mom as well, since it's been a really long time since I met her. I had stopped visiting home after the retirement party. I had to say no because I had a prior engagement. I had been invited to a friend's engagement party last evening, so I had to decline my dad's invitation to come home. Interestingly, I had asked him yesterday if I would find Derek at home or not, and my dad told me that I would not. I know that Derek is not living with him anymore, and I was really curious to know where he was or how that happened. But my dad did not offer any more information about it and made it obvious that he didn't want to discuss it. So I did not push further or ask him anything else about it. I did speak to Charles about it, and he told me that he had known that Derek had moved out a couple of days after he was fired. But he doesn't know if that was something Derek chose or if it was something my parents asked him to do. Things are a little unclear on that front right now, but I'm going to speak to my dad later about this and get to the bottom of what's going on. The meeting itself went pretty well. I had assumed that it was going to be really rough because of the circumstances. It's a serious breach of a lot of ethical codes. What happened was unacceptable, and it never would have happened if my dad or I were in charge. But the customer seemed pretty reasonable and told us that the only reason she had threatened to sue and was complaining about it so much on social media was that even after the incident had taken place, instead of acknowledging the fact that a mistake had been made, the manager had insisted that she had messed up and not specified that she had a dairy allergy, and didn't mention that she wanted soy milk to be used. So the fact that the blame for the situation had been pinned on her, when she knew fully well that it was not her fault, is what made her agitated. We realized how big of an idiot Derek was when we got to know about the entire situation. Since before this, she had refused to entertain any discussions with us without her lawyer. On her social media post, she had mentioned certain things about how the management of our restaurant had behaved with her, but hadn't gone into much detail because she was scared of being sued right back for defamation since this situation was just her word against Derek's. He had been in touch with her, telling her that she had to take the post down and claiming that she was lying and he would sue her, which is why she hadn't gone into much detail. And my dad and I had not been able to find out exactly what had happened. The waiter who had taken down her order was obviously scared to lose his job, so he had sided with Derek, and I don't really blame him for it. These are people who need their jobs and won't do anything to risk it, even if it means occasionally covering up for their employers. The new guy that Derek had hired was obviously never going to turn his back on Derek, so he also insisted that the waiter had told him nothing about soy milk or any alternatives, which is why he had used regular dairy milk and insisted that the customer was lying, making up stories to defame us, probably in a bid to get some money out of this. Anyway, we assured her that the person who was in charge had been fired, and now we are the people handling this, so we are going to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. We were able to come to a settlement, thank God for that, and she promised us that she would take down her posts and let this one go. We lost quite a lot of money in the process, but at least the mess that Derek created has been cleaned up, so my dad and I can breathe a sigh of relief. Update 3. Hi, it has been a month since I rejoined working at the restaurant, and I have never been happier. Honestly, it took me a month to realize just how miserable I had been when I was not working here. I know I have had my differences with my father in the past, but this place, I love it. I want to take it to new heights, and I'm going to do that. As for my father, we are also trying to work things out, and we have made a lot of progress. I have been in touch with my parents, and we have decided that as a family we need to spend way more time together than we really do. I talked things over with my dad a couple of weeks ago, now that I was going to be working at the restaurant again. He told me that he and my mother were really sorry about the way that they had been treating me. And Charles. They said that they always had known that Derek was kind of the weakest link among all of us, and they had just wanted to bring him up to a level where he could compete with us and not feel inferior. But in doing so, they had probably boosted his ego to a place of no return, and now he thought the world of himself without actually bothering to work on himself. So, the day that my father fired him, it hurt his pride, and he decided to move out after that. He cut everyone off and refused to speak to them. But my dad had managed to speak to a few people and found out that he was currently living with a friend and working at a local video game store. So at least he's doing something and trying to get by on his own, which is good for him. My family, including Charles and his wife, gets together for dinner every weekend. And even Derek has been invited several times because it would be rude not to. But he has refused to respond, and that's his personal choice. It hardly matters to me since I have nothing to do with that guy. I wish the best for him in the future, but I don't want anything to do with him. Spending time with my family has been great for me, and my father and I are finally getting back to a place of normalcy, and I love it. Life has been pretty great recently, I have no complaints. I'm finally doing what I love, and I am building something that I believe in. I don't think I could have asked for more, and I'm finally back on good terms with my family. I think that's pretty much all that a person needs to be happy,